After a stalled Build Back Better and failed voting rights bill, progressives in the House are preparing to challenge moderates in the party come November in efforts to gain leverage against corporate-backed Democrats. In Texas, progressive candidate Jessica Cisneros is running to unseat longtime Congressman Henry Cuellar. Cuellar was seen as a roadblock to leftist lawmakers that wanted to keep Biden's social safety net package linked to the bipartisan infrastructure bill that passed in November. And now with Bernie Sanders' endorsement of Cisneros and Texas congressional candidate Greg Casar, progressives are showing a flex of power in the Lone Star State.
Our next guest, Marianne Williamson, is seizing on the opportunity to get voters excited about non-corporate-backed primary candidates and will reveal a few of the candidates who she's endorsing tonight on a live stream from 7 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. The Seize the House stream also features some familiar faces, including Krystal Ball, Briahna Joy Gray, and Katie Halper, who will all weigh in on their choice of congressional candidates.
As a former presidential candidate, activist, and America's guru, Marianne Williamson joins us now to discuss tonight's event. Welcome back, Marianne.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And so, given how much disappointment there's been from progressives about the last 6 months or so of the Biden administration, 6 months plus.
Really the last century of...
The last century of Democrats since the New Deal, and maybe some good LBJ stuff in there. What was your criteria for settling on people that you feel like you can trust to get behind?
Well, there are obviously very good progressive candidates throughout the country, but some people, because of their background, either as attorneys, as nonprofit activists and organizers, have proven the kind of stalwart support of whether it has to do with Medicare for all, canceling the college loan debt, free college, Green New Deal, a more righteous foreign policy in the United States, have proven by their former actions that if they go there, if we get them there, they're going to do more than just talk. They're going to do more than just say, yes, I support a bill. They will actually get down into the weeds and do the kind of work that needs to be done to actually put the kind of political force behind these issues that turn them into policy.
So, Marianne, I'm sure I totally slaughtered all the names when I was reading all of these. I think, is it Casar or Cesar? I gave him a very fancy name. But these candidates that are being endorsed by yourself and also by Bernie Sanders, what makes them different?
Well, certainly, for someone to say, give me money, give me support, give me your vote so that I can go to Washington. There are a lot of people who feel very strongly that certain changes need to be made, but not everybody has proven with their past experience, with their passion, with the work that they have already done organizing people, with their work already. Take someone like Neil Walia in Colorado. He has worked in former Governor Hickenlooper's office on housing issues. He has worked with the National Governors Association. But all of these people not only represent the kind of professional background, but also the kind of personal experience, which gives them the visceral understanding of what people are going through. Whether it has to do with Jason Call in Washington, whose own mother died because of issues with insurance companies. She didn't receive the post-operative care that she should have received. Someone like Neil Walia, who I just mentioned, who, for all of his experience, all of his education, still himself finds himself crushed by college loan debt, unable to buy a house, struggling with his wife, wondering, should I have a child given the economic and environmental conditions with which we're all faced. So they're all people who have a visceral understanding, not just from a place that's removed and buffered from the suffering and the real frustration and pain that people feel, but who actually sit themselves within a space that gives them the passion to go to Washington and make these changes. We have no more time. There are too many people who are shackled by economic and social conditions that are creating a kind of petri dish of rage that is very dangerous and unsustainable for our country. We need people who will go to Washington and make the changes on a policy level that will ameliorate some of this universal despair.
I think progressives are facing backlash on some issues, not the ones you're really talking about. But for instance, we just saw last night San Francisco's very progressive school board was recalled because they focused on renaming the schools instead of reopening them. Frustrated parents on 1,000 different levels, and we're seeing backlash against progressive governance in the kind of education sector on a lot of fronts in terms of curriculum, in terms of the COVID policies just not at all fitting with what families expected. So progressives are, I think, to the extent they've kind of missed the mark on some specific COVID and then also cultural questions, are in retreat. But those were not the issues you were talking about. So do you think it's a matter of progressives kind of really refocusing what matters to them to be more in touch with what matters to actual people, actual voters?
Well, remember, Seize the House, which is our live stream tonight, seizethehouse.com, has to do with congressional candidates. You were talking about something different when you were talking about school boards, and you're right, that back and forth, that yin and yang, that maybe somebody goes a little too far in one direction here, somebody goes a little too far in one direction there, and you have to work that out. That's democracy. But what we're talking about here are congressional candidates who would be dealing with the kinds of issues that I just mentioned.
And as you guys are thinking through what types of candidates to endorse, how do you sort through what's often derisively referred to as a purity test? And let's take Gregorio Casar down in Austin. For instance, he's kind of the left's guy on the Austin City Council. He's been kind of the movement council member there, and also effective, responsible for passing some of Austin's most progressive legislation. He recently got into a kerfuffle with Democratic Socialists of America because he supported military funding for Israel. He said he would not support BDS. So he said, if you're not with us on that issue, we're not going to endorse you in the campaign. Now, a lot of DSA members are still volunteering for his campaign, and they stress that they still have a good working relationship with him. And if he goes to Congress, as it looks like he probably will, that they will continue working with him but wouldn't endorse him. I mean, so how do you feel about those types of questions where you agree with somebody on almost everything, but there's one issue where, whether it's for political reasons or ideological reasons, they're not with you on that particular thing?
I think that purity testing is immature, both psychologically and politically. I think that there are visions with which you do not compromise, but politics is the art of compromise. It's a life principle. Not everybody who is your ally or your companion or your friend is someone who's going to agree with you about everything. And that definitely applies to politics. The idea that I will not ally with you on a particular issue because you disagree with me about something else is actually the sign of it's behavior that does not bespeak a serious intention to create and to maintain political power. You're never going to, nor should it be. Democracy is not about all of us agreeing with each other all the time. That's not what a free society is about. And so I think the whole cancel culture purity testing thing is very unfortunate for our democracy and detrimental to any serious left-wing force in the United States.
Yeah, well, and you've seen I think we've seen the harms of it. I think politically, tactically speaking, that's a negative association a lot of people have with the left, for better or worse, and that are not looking at some of the issues you're talking about because, or aren't those the people who want me to lose my job because,
on most things.
Right, yeah.
It disturbs people, and I think it disturbs people for good reason.
Yeah. Well, Marianne, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's seizethehouse.com tonight. And I hope that you'll be watching and that your audience will choose to as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll be watching.
7 p.m. Eastern. See you there.
Tomorrow on Rising, Katie Halper will be with us, and we're going to discuss some new developments over at CNN.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a video. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.